What's up, friend?
What's up, PK?
I'm good, Queen. Another edition, man. We back at it. We ain't playing with them. That Paul Podcast 305.
No, definitely. Like we've been seeing a lot of each other. It's like, didn't I just see you?
I know, not a bad thing, but
No, not
listen,
at all.
all good, man. And all in the name of what we trying to get done and what we doing for
No,
people too.
definitely.
You know what I mean? Our last episode was crazy, and then now we back with a doozy for you.
Yes.
But before we get into that, hi, my name is Papa Keith. I'm a radio personality on 103.5 The Beat and founder of Just Vote Period, designed to connect our youth with democracy and register them to vote so they can be part of that democracy. You know what I'm talking about? And my amazing, lovely, and beautiful co-host, Janey Tate. Yes, she is the CEO and publisher of High-Low News, our hyper-local news that we get on our web and we get in our email boxes that lets us know everything we need to know about our community and what's happening specifically to brown and black millennials and such. And she delivers it in such a way where it's like baby food. So easily digestible and enjoyable. So thank you so much, Janey. It's an honor to link up with you every episode.
No, most definitely having a good time doing the show with you. And as we've been learning and hopping around South Florida and the country at this point, working on the podcast and building relationships is definitely been dope. And today is a very special episode. It's always a great time and a good time when we are able to have our guest on that's going to be on today. So you guys are in for a treat.
Absolutely. So you ready to get right into it?
Yes, let's get into it.
Okay, our special guest made history as Miami-Dade County's first woman mayor when she was elected November 2020 and was reelected in August of 2024. She leads a metropolitan government of nearly 23,000 employees, serving almost 3,000 residents, and manages an annual budget of $12 billion, which we'll be diving into today. All right. Her administration is focused on building a stronger, more prosperous, and more resilient Miami-Dade. Born in New York, oh, hey now, hey, and raised partly in Latin America, this amazing woman earned a bachelor's degree in psychology with honors from Yale, graduate degrees from law and social work from Columbia University. She moved to South Florida in 1980 to join her husband, Dr. Robert, Miami native and practicing physician. And together they raised two children, Eliza and Ted, right here in Miami-Dade County. Let's introduce the Miami-Dade County Mayor, Daniella Levine Cava.
Hey! Wow. Thank you.
How are you?
I'm good now. That was a beautiful introduction. Thank you to you lovely people.
Yes.
And just one thing I want to point out, you said 3,000 people. I know you didn't mean that. Nearly 3 million people in Miami-Dade County, just to set the record straight. Yes.
No, I think I think it was the employees I was talking about.
23,000, just checking.
Yeah.
23,000 employees?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah.
That's a lot of people to manage.
That's amazing. Well, we're so happy to have you on today. And, we know that the budget, you've been dealing with that for a very, very, very long time. The Miami-Dade County budget. I know there's a lot of pushing and pulling and, a lot of money that you weren't able to have that you may have had previously. And then now you have to figure out how you're going to make everyone happy and make it all still work with a budget deficit, correct?
So never a deficit because we can't have it. So we called it a budget shortfall.
Gotcha.
In July, when we submitted the budget, we had a $402 million shortfall. And then because of the way the new county government works out with 5 constitutional offices all taking the money from the same pot, they don't have to tell us until the end of the fiscal year that they're not able to spend all of it, but they can't carry it over. So that kept giving us extra that we could use to plug some of the holes that unfortunately July we had to recommend to be able to balance that budget.
Oh, wow.
Janey?
So that's how we got there.
That's right.
I would like to know, was this a more difficult budget season than any? And what did you do,
Absolutely.
before we get into like the nitty gritty, because I saw the headlines. Some people were really coming for you. They were swinging. What did you do to maintain your peace and balance during that time? Because I could tell it was a little stressful at times for you.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you for that. And thank you for noticing my personal pain in that regard. Look, I came in 5 years ago as the first woman mayor, and I thought we were going to be really in the down the drain, if you will, because of the COVID pandemic and people out of work and businesses closing and so on. And the federal government mostly came to our rescue. So we were able to keep people going, rebuild the economy, become one of the most recovered in the country, and still get federal dollars to help us get through it. And those federal dollars ran out in this past year's budget. So that was one factor. Then the state cut a bunch of our funding. That was really hard, especially that affected transit, by the way. Our transit budget was 13% of that shortfall was transit.
Wow.
And then there were these 5 constitutional offices that were new, 3 of them brand new, and the other 2 that had been part of us, but we had worked much more collaboratively together. So now we had to spread that money further. And of course, they're setting up their own offices and infrastructure. And of course, sheriff wanted more, and the tax collector got the money first, collected the money off the top, and then didn't even have to tell us by the end of the fiscal year. Fortunately, by the time September final budget came around, we were able to get back about 77 million from the constitutional offices, and we were cutting other things, and there were some other revenues that we were able to identify, and one thing led to another, and we were able to restore a lot of the things that sadly in July we had to propose to cut to have a balanced budget. And that included our nonprofit organizations, which are my heart and soul, our arts organizations, and also parks. We were going to have to cut some of the programming in parks. So we managed to get by. We actually prepared 3 budgets, and the final one was the winner across the finish line.
Oh, I
Wow.
love it. And just
Congratulations on getting it done.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback really quick on like the funding for the nonprofits and arts groups, which a lot of people fought for, like Vice Chairman Keone McGee. How do you see that money helping communities this year?
Well, it's a temporary fix. So let's really be clear about that. Constitutional offices are election supervisor, tax collector, clerk of the courts, property appraiser, sheriff. This was, for them, it was the first year for 3 of them, and the other 2 really managing all these funds. They're not going to have as much surplus next year, and we're not going to be able to count on it. And the state is going to maybe cut more funds. Maybe there'll be a property tax reduction, right? People would love to pay less in property taxes. We get that, but that is really the meat and potatoes of our budget is property tax, because the airport, the seaport, our building department, water, waste, fire, and libraries, they all have a dedicated source of revenue that is separate. We cannot take from their funds for the other general fund pot, and nor can we, it's separate. So for example, our safety, our public safety, so our sheriff is funded from general fund, our parks, general fund, transit, general fund, a part of arts and culture, general fund, and all those nonprofits that we were funding, which I don't think other counties in the state did anything like what we've done here for nonprofits. All of that is from the general fund. So when we lose money in that pot, we have to cut it from someplace. And that was really the situation that we were in. I'm a social worker. I'm a nonprofit leader. Many of these are organizations that I have deep personal relationships with. Either I started them, or I helped to run them, or I served on their boards. They were my partners, collaborators, and I know how valuable they are. When we have to choose between a bus route and keeping a park open, we're kind of stuck.
Wow.
Understood. Talking about the mass transit, let's get into some specifics. All right, Metro Connect is still around, but the rides will cost $375, and a few areas are being cut. How can you make sure people in the neighborhoods that rely on it most aren't left behind?
Yeah. So Metro Connect was something that we invented when we developed the Better Bus Network that created more frequency on the most utilized routes. So that meant that some of the less utilized routes were either cut back or some of them were even eliminated. So we put together this Metro Connect to kind of help get through that transition. And some of the areas actually got restored bus service. If there was enough of a demand, we added back a regular bus service. But people got used to Metro Connect for free, right? And unfortunately, we just can't afford it. Transit fares do not cover the cost of transit. We have one of the largest free and subsidized ridership programs in the country. All across the country, people are cutting services and raising fares, and we had not raised fares in 11 years. So we really could not afford to have Metro Connect for free. We understand that a lot of people had come to rely upon it. For some, they may be eligible for our special transportation services, STS, because of a disability. We want to encourage them to apply for that. And that is also door to door service. Metro Connect is not door to door, it's like intersection to intersection. But the good thing is, if you are taking Metro Connect to a transit route, like to a bus or a train, it's one fare. So you don't pay double. So
Mm,
it's really not intended to drive people around town. It's really intended to allow them to utilize our transit system.
got you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And just a follow up to that, does Miami-Dade County have a long-term plan to make public transportation more sustainable or reliable for residents, especially with the influx of transplants following the pandemic? Think of major cities like with transportation systems like New York, DC, Atlanta, Austin,
Right, right,
Chicago. Like, what are we doing to be able to compete with those major markets that
right,
we're
right.
like them as well?
Yeah, I'm a transit baby. I grew up in New York City from, early years. I was riding all over the city on subways. I also lived in Washington, D.C., relied on transit, Chicago, the same, London. Okay, I'm a
Oh,
transit
wow.
baby, and I know how important it is. We were not a transit city. Our transit system has improved in a really big way. When before the pandemic, we were the number 15 transit system in the country. Today we're number 10. So we have definitely made improvements and increased ridership. Some of that because traffic is so bad, so people are taking it. Also because we have more density in urban corridors, so it's more convenient. And of course, there's people that have no choice. They can't afford a car. So there are many reasons why people are using transit. We have a very ambitious transit development plan. And I have to tell you right now, we don't know how far we can go with it because the federal government is always a partner and the federal government is no longer prioritizing transit. So a big, big change. Also, the state, our Northeast corridor, for example, which is the Bright Line, but was going to have local stops, that has a $400 million allocation from the federal government, which they didn't take away in the new administration, but the state reneged on their 200 million.
Mm.
So we had the local set aside. We have to do local, state, and national. I don't know exactly how that's going to get resolved. Tri-Rail. Tri-Rail is a great public transit system. It's been subsidized by the state. The state is saying they're pulling out their subsidy. If we
Mm.
lose Tri-Rail, that's the equivalent of adding back another lane of traffic on I-95.
Oh,
Mm,
wow.
So,
yeah.
we're like, unfortunately, we're staring down some real big losses potentially. So we still have those plans, but we have to be realistic. We have to look at other opportunities um, to try to make improvements go. When you say, can we make it sustainable? Again, we have free Metro Mover. We have free Golden Passport. We have subsidized for students and people on low incomes. Um, you know, many of those things, of course, have to be paid some other way. And I'm sure we're going to be looking at all of those things. Now, the good thing is we have the half penny. The half penny that is for transit is supposed to not be for maintenance and operations. It's supposed to be for new things. It does pay for new things to operate and maintain. So, we're negotiating to try, and then we created something really positive called the TIF. So it's an increment finance for increased property values along the transit corridors. And monies have been earned as property values grow because it's desirable to have property along a transit corridor, like along the US 1 corridor. This year, that's how the commission decided not to raise transit fares. They took from that fund, which really is supposed to be to expand the service. But in the last minute, they made the motion and decided to take from there. But again, it is not sustainable. It is not a long-term fix.
Appreciate you explaining that. Yeah. I have kind of like a side question, because I'm hearing you speak about how the cuts from the Fed and then the cuts from the state. Is a lot of this political towards Miami?
Well, I think the current administration in Washington is not about transit particularly, or about, for example, electric vehicles and things like that. It's a different philosophy. That's uniform across the country. It's not targeted at us. As far as the state also is favoring roads over transit. That's been a struggle we've had for many years. And they cut a source that affects that corridor. These things are very expensive, and they always come either, in other countries, sometimes it's privately subsidized, even with real estate values, those where they're able to buy rights to real estate along the corridor in return for paying for the transit. So, I think we're just going to have to look at other options into the future.
Got you. The budget also includes more than 80 million for the sheriff's office. Can you speak to what
the total budget, 1.15 billion.
Wow. That's the total budget. So, but it was an increase of 80 million, correct?
I think over the initial proposal. Yes.
All right. So
I don't know if it was quite 80 million.
Okay.
Let me fact check that.
Yeah, we won't. We won't hold you to it.
It wasn't the full amount that was originally suggested, so she did come down. And I will explain to you that part of it was this: when the sheriff office was created, the legislature granted us a 5-year transition period, meaning we don't have to fully transition, for example, all the savings. And so the sheriff wanted enough money to be able to fund all her vacancies, even though she was going to still have vacancies. And one of the ways we balance our budget every year is we know we're going to have vacancies. So we don't put that money aside if we can't spend it, if you could get my drift. It's a kind of a cash flow issue, because you're always going to have turnover. You're always going to be recruiting. So we have a calculated factor for attrition. And we use that to be able to literally have cash flow when we need it. So the sheriff, one of the points the sheriff had was that she wanted to have all that money kind of setting aside, even though we knew she couldn't spend it all. And at the end of the day, we were able to give her additional amounts, primarily because, well, not only because the constitutional offices gave back funds they couldn't spend, and so there was surplus, including the sheriff's office, by the way. In this that just finished today, fiscal year, the sheriffs had received a certain amount of funding that she was not able to spend in this fiscal year. And that money also went back into the pot for the year that starts tomorrow. So, that's by law. They can't spend it. They can't surplus it. So basically she got to carry that money over. But the other thing is, very interestingly, You get tickets now when you speed by a school zone because there's a camera that catches you. That turns out to create a lot of revenue that has to be spent on public safety. So that was a big part of um, putting additional funds into the sheriff's budget.
Got you. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mayor Cava, I want to just take it back a little bit in the sense of like, because we talked about the budget and different details of it. What I noticed with a lot of people is they just don't understand how all of this works and how like this information is important and how it affects their everyday lives. How would you explain it to someone just trying to figure out what it means for their day-to-day life in Miami-Dade County?
Well, first of all, the budget is our primary policy document. It really reflects what are the priorities, and it needs to reflect the priorities of the community. That to be said, absolutely, community does not understand all of this complication that I've just described to you. And we were so conscious of this that we started earlier than ever. We started in May. We held 20 live uh, town hall meetings all around the county, more than we'd ever done. We did them for different interest groups, for businesses, for geography, for environmentalists, for arts groups, for nonprofits, just everybody. We wanted to explain to people starting in May the headwinds that we were going to encounter so they would know the difficult choices that were coming up. And so all the way through August, we did these town halls. So many people did come to understand the difficulties, but yet, if you need something personally or you run an organization that's providing important services, you just want to tell us that and you want us to figure it out. And these choices really don't maybe make sense. People might not understand why you just can't take money from the airport and use it to fund a nonprofit. Well, we cannot by law. And they don't understand why we can't just cut transit drivers, operators, right? If we cut bus operators, then we can't run the buses. So everything has an impact on everything else. And those were the really, really difficult choices. I plan for this coming year to do more budget exercises with the public where we go and we say to them, okay, here's your $13 billion. By the time you take out all the things that are set in stone, you cannot move, we're down to about $4 billion. Of that $4 billion, you've got corrections. If you cut corrections, then people are going to die. If you cut transit, people can't get to work. If you cut parks, then, people won't have a place to play and recreate, to go through it with them and ask them, now, what do you do? Like, are we going to fund nonprofit organizations and arts groups that we love, or are we going to cut parks or transit?
Yeah. Tough, very tough.
I have a follow-up when it comes to the nonprofit. So some of my research into, what happened with it, it feels like to me, some of the nonprofits did not take heed to the fact that some of that funding was temporary. Do you feel like it was unfair with some of the, I won't say attacks, but some of the criticism that you received or your administration received because of it? As someone who actually gets grants, I know fair well that some of them are temporary, some of them are, in perpetuity. The ones that are temporary, I can't ever go to these people and say, well, you told me this was only for 2 years. I'm in year 3. You need to give me this money or my business is going to fail or my organization is going to fail. Can you, share your thoughts on that? As I know you got to, play nice, but I'm just interested to know what you thought about some of that, because I know that money wasn't guaranteed to a lot of the nonprofits for subsequent years. They were told in advance that it was temporary.
So this personally caused me deep pain. Again, these are my friends, these are my collaborators, these are organizations that I helped to lead or partner. And I feel that, yes, it was very unfortunate that people chose to blame me personally. And I will say this, I think the commission did not take responsibility, several of them, for the fact that these were hard choices. And to just say that this is not the way to do it is not adequate. Again, $400 million shortfall. I cannot print money. We cannot have a deficit budget like the federal government. $400 million. This job has made me a fiscal conservative. These are very hard choices. And plus the way, as I explained it to you, which is the first time this has ever happened, where we really didn't even know until September the dollars that would not be spent by these constitutional offices that would come back to us. So we couldn't plan for it. We didn't know how much it would be. So I presented a responsible budget, a budget that covered the basic obligations of a county government. Did I want to cover all of these important community partnerships? Of course I did. And it was not possible. So for all the reasons, the cuts at the federal level, the cuts at the state level, the constitutional budgets that they asked for more than they could use, and we couldn't get the monies back in time for that first budget. And as far as your point, I ran a nonprofit organization for many years, Catalyst Miami, that I founded as the Human Services Coalition. My organization received county money, and just like so many others, received it for 10 years. Why? Because the Board of County Commissioners could never agree to a process to re-solicit and compete those grants. So the vast majority of those nonprofits had received the money for initially for 3 years. That was extended for 3 more, and for 3 more, and then for a 10th year. And to your point, nobody could expect that. But yet, if you're providing vital service and you know how important those dollars are, of course you're going to make the case that you're entitled to that money. I really understand that, but it's just not possible. So what's happened now is we've used temporary dollars. We've squeezed, the rocks, temporary dollars, and we are going to be working hard with our nonprofit community. We're going to be helping them to think through how they can find other sources. Commissioner McGee has a proposal. It has to go forward. That proposal will require those who do business with the county to put additional dollars into a pot. That will require the commission to approve that. And then the vendors would have to do that, put that money in. It won't be available in time for next year's budget. So, we need to, it's tough. It's really tough. And it's really tough love. And it pains me personally to be in this position of having to tell the truth.
Was a way figured out how to compete the grants, and also to reporting? I saw that it was said that there wasn't a consistent process for all grantees when it came to reporting. Some people did different things than others. And so would there be a new process for that? Because maybe that's also too, I have a theory that there may be some people who probably weren't doing the work to the ability that they should have, but they were getting granted every year because there was different reporting requirements for different groups.
So just to be clear, because it is quite complicated, there were a group of nonprofits that had been in that competitive pot for the 10 years.
Gotcha.
That was about $16 million. Okay. Then there were groups that were not in the competitive process. They did not have to submit applications. They did not get monitored and rated, right? The first group, the 16 million group, they put in competitive grants. They were monitored. If they did not perform, their funds were gone. They only performing nonprofits stayed in that pot. But then there was another pot of those that had gotten that money over many years, and they had come to expect it. So it was kind of part of our just cost of doing business. these important nonprofits, but they had come in because the county commission had directed funds to them. They did not compete. They did not provide reports. They did not get rated. Okay. And so what I've said is going forward, everybody who got continued funding now will have to produce reports, goals, reports, metrics. So I don't think there's many in there that would not be able to show that they had provided valuable service. I don't think that's it. And again, at the end of the day, i- you know, I don't know what funding we're going to even have. One proposal that I had initially made was to provide at 70%, not 100%. And, the board wasn't happy with that. They wanted to restore to 100%. That 100%, that difference came out of cutting some things that I didn't propose to cut. Basically, keeping vacancies open longer. We eliminated hundreds of vacancies from the county budget. I've been squeezing the budget certainly in this past fiscal year. My WISE 305 initiative. They said, you've had vacancies, don't fill them. Well, those vacancies were bus operators that we have to constantly recruit, or corrections officers that we have to constantly recruit. We don't have a lot of flexibility about the vacancies. I had already eliminated from my own office 7 positions, over $1 million from my operation, and from departments. The departments that were general fund were cut between 10 and 20%. And of course, we had to do it in a way that would not sacrifice basic service. So it's just, I don't really think there's a silver bullet here. The answer is we're having to spread the money further, and there's pressure to reduce even the funds that we have. And we're going to have to find new ways to fund our nonprofits. The arts groups had 2 other sources of revenue besides general fund. There was a tourist development tax and a convention development tax. I have to tell you, the state legislature tried to eliminate those this year, and they likely will try again. So if they eliminate those dollars, which we collect but are approved by the state, then what will we do for our arts groups? People have to look at the reality. We are in a different world. The federal government passed the big, beautiful bill that cut basic services. Right now, our housing, our program for the homeless is being threatened with devastating cuts. We're going to have we're so proud of what we do for our homeless population. We have one of the lowest homeless populations anywhere for a city of our size. It's 1,000 people or less on the street, which is really unprecedented for a 3 million person population, because we have a dedicated source of revenue. They tried to eliminate it. They tried to eliminate our food and beverage tax in Tallahassee. Taxes have to be approved by the state. If they eliminate that, and then the federal government is eliminating their grants, you are going to see a huge jump in our homeless population. Our health care insurance, our Medicaid cuts that are coming, why are we closing the federal government? We're closing the federal government because of a fight about the subsidies for Obamacare. Without those subsidies, people will lose health insurance. Hospitals will close. They will close because there won't be insurance sources to pay for people's care. That's the world we're living in today.
Yeah. I want to just say, based on something you said, I think it was a good idea. We call it skin in the game, the 70-30, just as a nonprofit. So just so you hear it from me, that I think that's something that I would deem as fair. Like, let me put 30% skin in the game if this is something I believe in, if I'm trying to make this happen, and if
and also to prepare people for the fact that it's a kind of a scale down.
Yeah, that part, so I think it was a good idea. I'm sorry,
No, definitely. I'm just shocked that people got 10-year grants. I'm like, that is amazing.
Right. You never exactly like you say, 10 years. That's amazing.
That's amazing. So I think that there should be some gratitude. I trust to your point. I totally get, because these are, like you said, life-saving services. But on the other hand, too, just as someone who plays in that world of grants and providing like services and information to my community for free, I know how much of a blessing it is to get any multi-year grant. So to get something for 10 years, I would just be so grateful for that. And I think it should have been a little bit more. I'm gonna say that as Janey. I think it should have been some more grace and understanding from our community partners on like what needed to be done, and a little bit more like collaboration on like, this is where we are. What can we give away, or like not rely on, so that we could at least use what you are proposing. So,
well, let me tell you this. I am a trained nonprofit advocacy instructor. And my nonprofits, they advocated like hell. So, got to give it to them. They were.
You trained them well. It's your fault.
It's my fault. And the arts groups, too. They really put up a heck of a fight. And, people heard them. The fact that our county commission is so concerned about the funding for our nonprofits, that's a great thing.
Oh, they were texting me, Mayor Cava. They were like, you have to be here. I was like, oh, they are on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great. I mean, it's not an easy job, and it's not as, black and white as some people think. So I'm glad you came on to, explain the budget to our audience. And I'm hoping that this goes viral, because this is the information that we need to have. And also too, just to your point of like, even what you said about transportation and how there's a play with the state and federal level, it seems like a lot of things that we blame our local governments for is not even the buck stops with you. There's collaboration that you have to do with different levels of government that the average person that doesn't understand. Like, I'm glad you broke down the thing with transportation, because I was like, why don't we have better transportation, not knowing the role that the state and federal government play into why your hands are tied, so to speak.
And we need everybody to work together to stop Tallahassee from cutting further, and whatever we can do with the federal government, I don't know. But certainly, and by the way, this is not a political show, but hey, elections have consequences. Okay.
A little political.
A little political. I also want to thank you, Mayor Cava, for taking the time. A lot of our audience know that we do run this show at nighttime. So just the fact that, you have your full day, your full schedule, you probably have to get up at 6 a.m. and taking the time to do this. It really means a lot to us personally here, Janey and I, but of course our audience and our family and friends and your constituents that are, paying attention right now on this podcast. So thank you.
I thank you. I thank you for your sincere interest and really getting behind the issues. And I thank you for what you both do in the community, because you are true leaders, mentors, activists, and we're so grateful. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That's what's up. All right. Is that it, Janey?
I mean, I don't know where we are with time. I know we both threw some sidebar questions in, so it's up to Mayor Cava. Also, too, if we're at time, definitely if there's any last thoughts, that we would want to let the community know, or anything that you have coming up.
I think it's really important that we have shows like this and really break it down. And I'm going to be working very hard, starting now, to prepare people to work together to find solutions. And that's local, state, national, partnerships, sharing of resources, capacity building, everything, to make sure that we have the critical services in the community that we need, and recognize that government cannot be the only answer.
As you do your budget literacy workshops throughout the community, please let us know here at That Part Podcast.
Absolutely.
And High Low News, how we could get that information out to the community. I think that's a great idea, and we need more people wanting to explain the process to the community like that. I think that's really dope. Yeah,
likewise.
You got it.
Thank you, Mayor Cava.
Thank you so much.
This is a great conversation. I was all in. It's so good. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
All right.
Man. Big shout
Mayor.
out to Mayor Cava.
Yes, and all of her team and her administration that help us, schedule these interviews, and always so grateful for her. Like,
Yeah,
with her
shout out to
time.
J-Lo, Melanie, shout out to the whole
Yes.
crew. Yeah,
No,
definitely.
look, we didn't shout. What I love about Danielle, Mayor Cava, is she a G. All the questions ain't gonna be nice, but she'd be like, all right. When she took them glasses off, I was like, oh, she means business.
Yeah,
Right.
I thought at one point she was getting a bit emotional, and I was like, because when we started talking about the nonprofit, and then she was expressing like, yo, I came from that, so that hit different. I was like, damn, I kind of felt it for her,
Yeah, that's how I was introduced to her. Someone from a previous lifetime, won't say their name, but they worked, I think, with Catalyst. And she was, over, and she was like, I heard about her in the nonprofit space of like being, this OG in the game and really good at her job. And then like shortly after that, I heard about her run for, was it because she was a commissioner first? Yeah.
Commissioner, yeah.
Commissioner. So I was like, oh, snap, the lady who does the great nonprofit work, she's gonna run for county commissioner. That's dope, like to have her on the dais, and then ran for mayor. So like, but that's how I was introduced to her, as the founder of Catalyst and all the great work that they were doing. So yeah, to a point, I know that it was different.
Yeah, definitely. And I actually first met her, funny story. We were doing a bike giveaway. That's when we had the cycling thing where we cycle around Gwen Cherry Park. We do that run. And then we'd give the bikes away to the kids. And I was working with Commissioner Monestein in District 2 with a lot of the events at Gwen Cherry Park. And I thought he was going to run for mayor.
Oh, yeah.
Right. But
that at one point.
So he said, no. I got to do his Haitian accent. No. I'm not going to run anymore. But I want to introduce you to who I am standing behind, and
and you killing that accent.
Right. And then he introduced me to now, then commissioner, but now Mayor Cava at the event. So she came out there, she saw what I did. And then when she was actually doing her campaigning, she did, I don't want to say a town hall, but she did like a meet and greet at Icy Food Miami. Yeah. So, that was cool. And then she was off to the races after that.
No, definitely. So kudos to her, because this budget season was not an easy one, but I'm glad that everything pulled through and everybody couldn't get everything that they wanted. But I think it was a fair budget, what they passed, especially given as she said, the shortfalls of the budget that where some funding didn't return from state and federal.
Yeah. You know what? We forgot to and I don't know if I had I'm thinking of it now, but I don't know if I would have even thought of it or had the guts at the moment. But remember, we were talking about how much some of the people in her administration make.
I was going to ask it, but we ran out. But I feel like we ran out of time.
But she kind of,
wasn't scared at all. But I just I respect the time.
I'm scared. I'm just saying, she had me more in an empathetic spot. I mean, I guess I got to be tough with it like you, but I guess I was a little satisfied. So my tongue was wet with when she said she had to let go. She had to cut
$1 million out of her budget for
employees, which was $1 million. So that was like that math kind of did it for me. So I was kind of satisfied with that,
But that was probably 3 positions off of that.
No, she said 7.
No. What I'm saying is the top 25 people on that list made at least the average of $300,000. So $1 million, like that's 3. That's 3 of those positions, like, off of the highest paid Miami-Dade County employees, but.
I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah. I wasn't sure what we were on time. I should have asked ahead of time, but it was good.
No, I think it's
but I think the Florida conversation was what it needed to be.
Yeah, and
we'll ask about that another time.
Definitely. So we hope people are getting what they needed, and of course, if you don't live, I don't live in Miami-Dade County. I live in Broward County, but this information, I'm told Broward and Miami are like polar different, in terms of government, even how it's set up, but it's still great information. It's still opening up our pause to understand more about, our local governments, and that's why we do this. It's just to pique your interest and get you to like wrap your head around things. And hopefully, the way she explained things, I felt it was really digestible.
They're very digestible. And all you people in Broward, I don't know who's connected with people on the county commission over there, but y'all need to get us connected with them, because we just not gonna keep putting the people in Dade in the hot seat. Some of you Broward girls and boys need to come step over here and explain what y'all doing with the people money over there too. Okay.
Well, I do know I do know a Commissioner, Alexandra Davis. If we need that. I do know a Hazel Rogers if we need that.
Okay. Tell our good sisters to come over here to That Part podcast. I would love to know what's going on in Broward County with the girls.
You know what? We've been so stuck on Miami for so long. I'm gonna make it intentional that we will reach out to them for our next series for sure. But let's ride out with Miami-Dade for the rest of this series, because we still got the city of Miami to tackle. They got an election coming up, so Yeah. So we'll keep it Miami for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
We'll spread the love moving forward. Trust.
Yes, we
Trust
will.
and believe. But again, big ups to everybody in the comments. Thank you so much for everything, for tapping in with us. Please hit the subscribe button for sure. Please share. A lot of people need to hear this information. And if you kind of just toss it to them, alley-oop, you're helping them, us, and really yourself, man, as an advocate. We can't do it all. We need like other advocates. So when you share it, when you subscribe, those simple things that you could do really have you become an advocate as well, So please, do it. And of course, big ups to our amazing show producer, Derica,
Yeah, always. Derica get us right. And she brought it with the questions today. So I appreciate all of the hard work that she does going into producing this show, because me and PK don't have the time or the capacity or the brain power to do it. And without Derica, we will be on here just spinning.
Yes. Yep. So thank you, Derica. We appreciate you. All right. For real. All right, y'all stay tuned, man. You never know what's next with us. I can't even call it anymore because our show
I know,
is
because something's still pending.
Yeah, things be skipping other things, all kind of stuff going on, man. But just keep tapped in with us, man, because one thing about us, the conversation is always about you.
That part.
Amen.
See y'all next week.